wanted to do with you all briefly, just to sort of have it on the books, is the verb ser. What you're going to find out is that the verb ser is, well, for one, it's to be. But there's two to be's in Spanish. There's ser, and then there's the verb estar, which is something we were using at the beginning of class with como estás, for example. That's when we use the verb estar. Well, there's a little jingle people use. How you feel and where you are, always use the verb estar, right? That's the little rhyme for that. Now, we're not going to deal with this verb today, but and I want to focus on this one. And so essentially many of the other reasons to use to be will fall under the category of ser. Now, there's some other ones that will be under estar, and we'll get to that in a different class. But so ser, in terms of its reasons, and this is just to name a few, right? This is an introduction to the verb ser, right? It's actually an introduction, if you will, to your first quote unquote irregular verb. When we use time, we use ser, right? It's why you ask, ¿qué hora es? Right? And then your response to that is, son las dos, son las tres. And again, we'll get to telling time in a different lesson as well, but just so you know, you're going to use a conjugation of the verb ser when we tell time. Possession, like es mi café, it's my coffee. You're, again, using a variation of the verb ser. You're using this, right? Same as with time. So you'd say, ¿qué hora es? You're using the third person singular of that. It's agreeing with the hour, hora. So, but we'll get to that later too. Origin, right? Where you're from. This was something we did, in the beginning of class. ¿De dónde eres tú? Oh, yo soy de Virginia. Yo soy de Colombia. Yo soy de Greensboro. That was using ser. You were giving me, in a sense, your origin or where you're from, right? So again, we would use ser for that. And I was saying, ¿de dónde eres tú? And I was using the second person conjugation, saying you, and then your response was using yo, I, the subject pronoun I. And then again, that's, like I said, just to name a few, but the last one are characteristics. Like if all of you started to explain yourself, like, we're on the phone and I've never met you before, and I have to meet up with you, for one reason or another. And I'm like, well, ¿cómo eres? You could then describe your features or your characteristics, if you will. Of course, it goes beyond that, and you can go beyond like describing your physical features, like yo soy alta if you're a female, or yo soy baja if you're a female, of course. Different characteristics like that, and you can move into yo soy inteligente. Yo soy, if you're a female, yo soy hermosa, I'm beautiful, right? And you can use those sort of characteristics. Again, it's also used if you wanted to say, yo soy estudiante, yo soy doctor, yo soy médico, right? Again, all of those, doctor and médico being if you were a male saying that. If you were a female, of course, you'd say, yo soy médica, or yo soy doctora, right? And so that's really, ser is used for these reasons. And again, this is just to name a few. We'll learn more later, but this is just to a bit of an intro. And in terms of conjugations and subject pronouns, I want to run through this really quickly as well. So we have yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nosotros, vosotros, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Now, I'm going to mark this one because vosotros is used by and large only in Spain. Now, there are pockets in Latin America that will use vosotros, but there's no need to go into all that. But the country that is known for using vosotros is Spain, right? And in other words, people from Spain will use vosotros. Vosotros is the equivalent, right? Our Latin American equivalent, if you will, for ustedes. Both of them mean you all. Or for you Southerners, y'all, right? Or for you Northerners, you guys, right? I don't even know if there's Northerners in here. But, and so it is your you all or you plural. And so that's how that works. The reason I bring that up is because this is going to really be one of the only times I show you this and its corresponding conjugation. The reason being is because both accomplish the same thing. If I say ustedes son or vosotros sois, I'm saying, for all intents and purposes, the same thing. I'm saying you all are. And because, for example, in your case, who is learning this, from the very beginning, it alleviates a lot of extra work. In other words, you can learn one way of saying it as opposed to two ways of saying the same thing, if that makes sense. Now, I want to be clear about this. This is part of the language, and for those of you that go to Spain, you will hear them use this, right? And so I just want to make that clear, and so that you all know that it is said. It's not just, I'm not just leaving it out because it's not said. It is very much said. However, this is used much more ubiquitously. It's more universal, right? It's used in more places. And so that's why I'm opting for this. In much of the same way, I'm opting to do the more neutral tu as opposed to vos, even though vos is said in parts of Latin America and has its own corresponding conjugation as well. I'm gonna leave that one out as well. So just so we're all clear as we continue to move through class and you see these subject pronouns continue to reappear, right? So I'm gonna pronounce this for you guys now, and then, as I said, afterwards we'll do it as a group. So yo soy, right, is I am. Tú eres, you are. Él, he, ella, she, usted, you formal, which is individuals that you don't know or have a position of, say, authority, and you are saying this as a way of respect. And again, we'll get to that later as well. So we have él, ella, usted, es. This is third person singular, right? And so it's singular because él is by itself, right? As opposed to ellos, which is plural, right? Nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos, ellas, ustedes son. So these are plural versions of él and ella. So it's them or they, right? And then ustedes, as I've said, is you all or y'all, or however you pronounce that for yourself in English. And so that's that equivalent there. So let me do that one more time. Yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, ellos, ellas, ustedes son. Right, this is your first introduction in conjugating verbs. And again, to go back to what we said at the beginning of class, for example, yo soy, I could also just say soy, because I know, and everybody would know what I'm saying based on the conjugation. I don't have to have yo soy, right? And I can just say soy. In much of the same way, I can say de donde eres, as opposed to saying de donde eres tú. Now, if you want to use the subject pronoun, by the way, these are called subject pronouns, just if anybody was wondering. If you want to use a subject pronoun in a question, it has to come behind the verb. That's why I keep asking you, de donde eres tú? I don't say, and it is said by, for example, Puerto Ricans and others, de donde tú eres, right? You will hear it that way, but grammatically speaking, you put the subject pronoun after the verb.